good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. In NFL news today, Texans linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair has been suspended 3 games for repeated violations of player safety rules after his hit to the head of Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence on Sunday. The hit had Lawrence carted off the field and got Al-Shaair ejected from the game. The suspension would have the former Titans linebacker back available for Houston in the regular season finale between Titans and Texans at Nissan Stadium. The final college football playoff ranking of the regular season comes out tonight. The Vols are 10-2 and expect to be in. The ranking will come out on ESPN at 6 p.m. College basketball, the number 3 Vols are home tonight. They host Syracuse in the SEC ACC Challenge. Tip-off at 6:30. Vol Network coverage will be joined in progress in the second half on The Zone after Mack Talk wraps up at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. Of course, you also have the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. We'll have Coach Mack in the second hour, but we're just going to jump right in like we always do. College football playoffs tonight, 6 p.m. will be the second to last version of the bracket, I guess you would say.
Oh.
And the penultimate, I guess, if you were doing the preseason season finale or however you want to say it. And there was an interesting argument going on because, you know, the University of Tennessee Volunteer fans, they love to get into weird arguments and constantly attack people, threaten them,
Sammy,
and all this stuff.
Is this true, Sammy?
You know, I'm a little offended right now because we were talking about this right before the show started, Blaine. Me and Zach were, and, you know, there were no threats made. No threats. It was a very happy combo.
I mean, I'm talking about. So Ari Wasserman was talking about whether if the college football playoffs pitted Ohio State versus University of Tennessee, that Ohio State has the better resume and will likely get the home game. That's the correct observation. There is no other argument in my mind.
I would concur with that. But you, Sammy, you're speaking for the Tennessee fans when you're on the show. You know when you're speaking. We know who you are. That's okay. But what is your thoughts?
I 100% go with Tennessee getting the home field advantage right here. I mean,
the only argument is blatant homerism. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay. Just admit it.
Right.
But there's no need to attack guys like...
Embrace it.
Yeah.
And don't deny it.
Chris Vanini,
you're
Ari Wasserman. There's no need to go and attack these guys and start this big brouhaha, if you will. That's an old term school.
Well, speaking of that, though, what do you think the guy who's a spokesman, who's a Michigan AD, like, what is he going to say about the Michigan being Ohio State there?
I mean, here's what I'm going to say about that game. That's just as bad as the Arkansas loss in my mind. And I think that's what they're going to say when they go through it, is that's just as bad. Now, listen, do I think that University of Tennessee could beat Ohio State? Yes. But who has the better resume? And that's ultimately what we know that this crew looks at, this committee looks at, is who has the better resume. And Ohio State has the better resume, even though they're technically the worst team. Like,
was it that they lost late though?
And that's the thing. And their only other losses to Oregon by 1 point.
Right, in Oregon.
And they have they beat 2 top 5 teams along the way. Mm-hmm. They're now top 10 teams, but they were 2 top 5 when they played them and beat them. So I mean, they have the better resume. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But here's what I'll say. So we have a poll up over at Blaine and Zach on Twitter, Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach. If the college football 2024 pitted Ohio State versus Tennessee in the tournament, which team is deserving to be ranked high for the home field advantage? Should probably have been higher. I should have probably proofread it. But, of course, University of Tennessee is leading, which I expect that this poll will end up with them leading because you guys are a bunch of homers that can't be objective. That's just how I feel. I mean, like, I could be objective about Alabama.
You are objective.
And I think
they should not make the playoffs. Do you still stick with that?
Listen, they should not make the playoffs. They may make the playoffs, but they shouldn't. They are undeserving of the playoffs. I think there are a myriad of other teams that should get in before Alabama. Hell, I think there's some teams that have worse records that should get in over Alabama. Like if you're asking me, I'm going South Carolina over Alabama. I've said it last week. I've said it for about 2 weeks now.
I like South Carolina.
That's where
they don't have that, pizzazz and the name branding and all that.
I mean, they don't have it, but let me say something. Lenore Sellers is going to be a household name. That quarterback down there, he's awesome. They got. I think they got a little bit of, and Shane Beamer's kind of a personality.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, I'm not going to put Ole Miss in over Alabama, but I'll definitely put South Carolina in.
Oh.
But I think that the path for Alabama to really get in is just Clemson losing, and it's probably just as simple as that. Because I do think that brand recognition will kind of matter, and competition will kind of matter, and I think that SMU, a 2-loss SMU team, may be this year's Florida, quote unquote, Florida State from last year that gets left out.
But I can't wait because, the Vol fans, which we always want the Vols to do well, but man, if they had, except you're Bama. Yeah. I want to see the Vols do well. Actually, the way Nico, I said that if they won against Vanderbilt, Nico's going to have to step up. That was my quota. We should put that back up. And he actually did. And if their offense does what it's supposed to, I'm telling you right now, they could go on a run for a national title.
They could.
That is real. I can't believe it's taken them this long.
He found a little bit of himself in this last game, like a little bit of attitude. And they went. Listen,
talking smack at the at the end there. And
we were traveling to my in-laws, and they're all Michigan fans, but we were traveling to my in-laws. One TV was on Vandy, Tennessee. One TV was on Michigan, Ohio State. And, we get there, and, Tennessee had closed the gap because when we left our house, it was 14-0, Vandy. And I was like, oh, my gosh. Yeah. I thought about texting a few people at the station, where it should be a BVS level, but Alabama and Auburn hadn't played yet, so I didn't want to jinx anything that they were doing.
I was like, I don't know how long this will last.
But they came out, and they put, Nico put the team, he just had this attitude, this wild look in his eyes. Mm-hmm. And at some point, to me, that's what we've been asking for, right? Yep. We've been wanting it. And they came out and just put it to Vandy.
Yeah. And then they kept Diego in check.
Yeah.
It was an impressive win. Got off to a slow start. I was getting a little nervous there. But it could have been the kickoff time, and the big plays. And I'm a real big proponent on big plays aren't. No, you can't talk about Tennessee's offense, but big plays when special teams and things like that nature. You say, how often is that going to continue to happen in a game? It's not going to happen in an entire game. That's almost impossible.
Yeah.
They got off to a big start there at Vandy, tipped the cap. But man, after that, it was pretty much over. They controlled the line of scrimmage. The game plan was a little tough. I think Vandy defensively tried to just do the 3-man rush and put everybody in coverage. So he was back there baking a pancake all day, Nico, and it didn't work in their favor. Man, they got some big splash plays, and it was over. I was like, man, they handed it to them after the first quarter. Pretty much it was all Tennessee.
Yeah,
there was nothing that was close. I was hoping it would be a little more competitive, at least as the time went on. I'm like, Vandy may have a run, but at halftime, you're like, yeah, this probably over.
The one thing about it is that it was just this defense is. Yeah. It has to be, and I don't know all the metrics, and I should because I'm the stat guy, but I don't know all the metrics and everything. But I can't think of a better week in, week out, season-long defense than University of Tennessee around right now. I mean, they are just consistent. And now that ever since that Alabama game where James Pierce had 10 pressures, he's been off the chain all year. He's already tied his season high from last year of 52 pressures, according to PFF. So he'll end up breaking that because he'll at least play one more game. He needs to get a few more sacks, and not a lot of his stuff has turned into sacks, but this guy has been just a beast in both the pass game and the run game, and this is the right time to get your stud players playing like studs. And Nico, James Pierce had slow starts to the season, a little bit inconsistent, but they have turned it up this second half of the season, and they've really turned it on at the right time.
Man, I'm really hoping the Titans get to draft Pierce. You think that's a possibility?
Maybe in the second round. Hayden Stone can't. Yeah.
No, Sammy, you have to be able to respond to this. This is what
Abdul
makes it awesome.
Carter is better than James Pierce.
Second round, though?
We'll see.
I think it's even say 15th or something.
We'll see. I know that the draft nerds all love James Pierce, but I do wonder if the NFL likes his frame, his penchant for slow starts. I do wonder.
I got you on that, but 15 though. You said second round.
Yeah, I mean, like for the Titans, because they don't have the 15th. They're picking high.
Well, I mean, I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Like, what round? In the first round, where do you think?
I'm just saying I wouldn't reach where the Tennessee Titans are going to be picking. I wouldn't reach for James.
Well, okay,
Pierce.
You name one pass rusher. Name another one.
Nick Scourton.
Oh, they're better than Pierce.
Yeah, I do.
Athletically, speed, and the numbers when they go to the combine.
So.
That's who they're going to beat them.
Maybe not combine, underwear Olympic stuff, but I think on the field.
Look, he's still trying to throw shade on it.
Yeah.
I get it because there is also production in game all day, all the time. But guess what? I won't say he's on the level, but he reminds me of how he moves, and he's twitchy of the freak. Yeah. He's not the freak. He's not something like that, but they need somebody who can get after quarterback, and I don't care how you get to him. Yeah. Speed kills. He has that.
Listen, if the Tennessee Titans are in a trade back scenario and they trade out of whatever top 10, top 5 pick they may have and move out of the top 10, pick up a couple extra picks, then that's the James Pierce area.
But watch this. It's not a strong quarterback draft, so what other positions elevate themselves? Always pass rusher.
I think we'll see more teams try to chase the quarterback situation because the free agent situation. I wouldn't either, but we know teams do it. We know they do.
They do. Sammy, what you got to say about the Pierce in the second round?
I mean, I don't think he's going to go in the second round, but I like the pick 15 because then maybe, my Dolphins, could maybe.
There you go.
Who are you? The Dolphins?
Yeah.
We've talked about this.
No, I don't want to believe it. I thought that was just a kid thing. Like when you were growing up, you loved the Dolphin. You wanted the Dolphin. I thought you were really a Titans fan.
I'll support the hometown team, but if it comes head to head,
you just broke
my loyalties.
Heart. I cannot believe that.
When we come back, we'll get to your phone, 615-737-1045. This is Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons on Cover 2 on 1045 The Zone.
Tells you about your loyalty. Hey, Hey, this is Blaine Bishop, and I want to know if you have heard about peptides. And peptides are shaking up the fitness world. They are naturally occurring aminos in our bodies. So as we age, they start to decline. And at some point, they may need to be supplemented. This is why our workouts can stop being productive at the gym. And maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, or perhaps you feel tired all the time. You may be struggling to stay awake in the evenings when you get home from work. Well, if you have the thought this is just a normal part of aging, it doesn't have to be that way. Peptides are proven to increase muscle and performance, burn fat, and help with recovery between workouts and more. Peptides can even help with motivation and mental clarity. These are all safe, naturally occurring aminos, not pharmaceuticals. A natural and holistic way to get your body back to peak performance. Plus, Edge Peptide Therapy has the most comprehensive blood panel around. So when you go to Edge, you will know exactly what is going on inside of your body and what it needs to get back to peak performance. So feel better from the inside out. And all you have to do is go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. And, of course, we have the F&M Bank chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. We're going to go straight to the phones, and we're going to go to Eddie, who's on the interstate, who wants to talk about Tennessee versus Ohio
Eddie
State.
George.
Eddie, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
EG.
Yeah, I just got a question. You started the show with the premise that only a Tennessee homer would put Tennessee over Ohio State at this point after the results of last weekend.
Don't say we, Mr.
I mean, it's not just the results of last week. I'm just saying overall the resume.
Right.
Here's my question.
Okay.
What is Tennessee ranked in the AP poll this morning?
I believe they're ranked, I think 6.
7 or 6.
That's a question
And
I
what
have
is
to
Ohio
look up.
State
I
ranked?
had it up and then I lost
What
it.
are they?
Please look it up. I'm driving. I don't want to. Tennessee is ranked ahead of Ohio State. Tennessee is ranked ahead of Ohio State in the AP poll.
Oh.
So unless that is all Tennessee homers, premise is not holding true there. What is Tennessee ranked in the coaches poll?
They're ahead of Ohio State?
They're ahead of
3.
Ohio State.
They're 3 ahead of Ohio State.
Yeah.
So to say that only a Tennessee homer, and it is just clear and plain that only a Tennessee homer could come up with a conclusion that Tennessee should be ranked ahead of Ohio State, goes flies directly in the face of the only rankings out there right now, which are the AP and the coaches poll.
Yeah, I'm just saying, and I get what you're saying, Eddie, and I agree with your premise. But what I'm saying is that when this committee is putting it together, what do we all know that they look at first? Resume. Mm-hmm. These coaches just go off the last thing. You know, the coaches, the AP people, they'll go off the last thing. But at the end of the day, the committee is going to look at the resume. And I'm not saying that it's 100% going to work out this way. I'm just saying that the argument is to be made that, hey, this is what the committee is going to look at. They're going to look at the resume. A 10-2 versus a 10-2. Neither of them are going to be able to go into their championship, but someone has better wins, and better wins mean a lot for this committee.
Or better losses.
And better losses, too. Well,
but I think
I would say the Oregon loss is probably the best loss probably of any team in the country right now.
Michigan's playing a little bit better. Michigan still not really good, but I think the Callahan has some great points there, but at the same time, I mean, the coaches poll and the AP poll gives you a good gauge on how you think the playoff committee is actually going to act. And as far as just ranking, usually it's a little bit different, but typically it's around when the top 10 teams, it's right pretty close to on point every time. So to the caller's point, yeah.
And listen, if I was in the committee, I'd be making the argument for Tennessee. But I think that's a really hard argument to make and win successfully, especially probably the way the committee views the brand of Ohio State. And I know nobody wants to talk about it. Yeah. There's that little brand word, the B word coming through. And, that's just kind of how they're going to view it when things are close. I mean, we're talking about Ohio State's at 7 in the AP poll. Tennessee's at 6. Probably when the committee gets in, they're going to be looking at all that kind of stuff. That's just kind of where I'm at. I think that's the logical way to look at it. Mm-hmm. There is the recency bias way, and then there's the logical way to look at the whole season and the wins and the losses of the whole season.
But you mentioned Ohio State's wins and how they were top 5 teams at the time. Now they're top 10. I mean, you can look at the same thing with Tennessee's schedule because they had multiple teams that were ranked whenever they played them. They may not be the same ranking now.
Yeah.
But it's really the same case.
Yeah, NC State was 24. I mean, obviously Alabama was ranked when they beat Alabama. I mean, there are those, but they're not as high quality as what these other wins are. And that's really where it all comes down to as well.
Yeah, well, I was looking at, when you lose to the number 1 ranked team, Oregon, I think, even though it was close, it was at Oregon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think that probably carries a lot of weight. But I think Tennessee's going to beat them in the ranking.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm not going to be.
Get them home?
I won't. See, here's the thing. I won't be as upset if they are ranked, higher than Ohio State in the bracket. But if they're not, all the UT fans are going to get all up in arms because there's still another week of football.
Well, the championship game.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I mean, I'm not too concerned with it. But here's the thing: I don't want Tennessee to play Ohio State. I need them to play a team that I can root for because I can't root for Ohio State. And it has nothing to do with SEC bias. I just hate Ohio State.
Whoa. Which team do you hate more, Ohio State or UT? Tennessee?
Oh, Ohio State.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why is that?
There's some personal stuff in there. But
Bama, they beat Bama.
No, it has nothing to do with Alabama, Ohio State. It's more of a personal matter.
Oh, okay.
That I can't get into on the air.
Oh.
But I hate Ohio State. And I've always enjoyed when Ohio State loses.
Oh, hey, what's going on, Eddie George? What's going on, man?
I'd say it to him.
Yeah.
And I also say good job with TSU because it's awesome.
I, in fact, told Eddie George that I hate Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State, hate them. And also, I have a wife that is that whole family's in Michigan, so that kind of helps boost it. But that's not the reason why. I just
I
hate
have
Ohio
family
State.
member who played at Michigan, so
Yeah.
they. But that was when Woodson was there and everybody. So
Yeah,
he's
I've
the
always-
other corner. Nobody knows who that
It
guy was.
goes Auburn for me, and
He started.
then it goes Ohio State, and then it goes Tennessee. So I need, and I also don't like Notre Dame either. So they got to find someone I can root for. Like I'd root for Indy, man, but then I'd have to be rooting for a team that makes Buck happy. Man, there's just not really a lot of good options here for me to root against Tennessee right now.
Where's Memphis at? I saw they lost.
They beat Tulane.
Oh, they beat Tulane.
Yeah.
They beat Tulane. Okay.
They won their rivalry game. They beat number 17 Tulane. But they're not making it to the college football playoffs though.
I know. They always have a respectable program though.
Yeah.
Football anyway, most of the time.
So I got to switch over to a different gear. I got a question because this was kind of spawned off Ramon, Kayla, and Will this morning where they were talking about, how would you grade, the job done so far by Brian Callahan and all this kind of stuff. And it prompted some really weird phone calls. And some of the chat was wild in there as well. But I look at it like this. I heard people call in and say that he wasn't manly enough. And they were attacking his man card, I guess you could say, saying that he's not a manly, because Mike Vrabel, he's a manly guy and all this kind of stuff. And that got really wild. But it made me think, it's not really about how would you grade Brian Callahan so far. It's about how much faith do you have in Brian Callahan in 2025? How much faith do you have in Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon in 2025? So we put out a poll on Blaine and Zach on Twitter, cover 2, and it's out right now, so you can go vote. And it asks right now, what is your level of faith in the Tighten Up head coach and GM to fix things in 2025? Do you have faith in Callahan only, full faith in both, a little faith in both, or no faith in either? And I'm going to have to say, and I'm a full faith in both kind of guy, because I just know that sometimes you have to pour concrete to build a foundation before you build a house. And I think at this point, yeah, I get that this season's disappointing. I totally understand. But I think that you have to give them another year, because I don't think it's going to be that detrimental if they suck in next year. Let's say it's the same thing. I still don't think it's going to be that detrimental to the health of your franchise.
Well, I think that now, if you say that, going into next season is bad, I think from a fan's perspective, they're always going to look at it bad. I actually agree with you on that. I didn't know we were going to talk about this. Is that because those foundational pieces when you're building, which is always in the trenches, are going to be much better next year. And even if the quarterback doesn't work out, guess what? We got another guy named Manning coming out that year. So to me, I'm right there with you. Now, do you then make changes after next year? I think that will be a consideration if they don't get over the snot and get over the hump and look like a much better team. And I think they will be. They better be. Or, Miss Amy's not going to have that. So I'm not in the corner of firing the head coach or anything like that. If not, I'm not in the business of, getting people fired anyway. But I think somebody's head may roll if they don't get better, at least on special teams, as we discussed yesterday. Unfortunately, it's just got to be that way. But if you bring them back, it better be, not, let's say, games that they lose because of special teams. Because I believe that a lot of those special teams plays were actual individual players not doing their job, especially early on.
I want to get into the special teams conversation.
There were some scheme things here recently on the kickoff, but I think a lot of people are having somewhat issues on the kickoff. If somebody gets out of their lane and figuring out, hey, we got to do this instead of that, and you can't take as much risk. You got to stay in your lane. If they hit a crease and get the ball there, it's full speed ahead. So there's a lot going on there that everybody's learning at the same time. But I really believe most of this is, Jaquan Jackson's fumbled the ball 4 times. That has nothing to do with the special teams coach. Sorry.
Well, and that's the thing, man. Now we're going to dive into this. Okay, we got table of special teams. I do have some stuff I want to talk to you about special teams. I wrote down, but I want to stick with our initial conversation.
I don't think anything about Callahan.
Yeah.
I think actually he's doing a good job. We're all on the outside looking in. I can get how somebody could say manly, but maybe they meant more. They want him to be, irate or stiff like Vrabel was. At the same time, I think behind the scenes he is that guy.
Yeah.
And I think he gives them just enough to make them say, hey, man, we can't be saying this. We can't be saying that. And sometimes after a game, some players say some things. You go, what? What is he talking about? Hey, any cold game, I guarantee you I was talking about it, but I wasn't talking about that to the media.
Right.
Like, dang, man, it's freaking cold. I play out there freezing in Cleveland in snow. I can't even see, the guy I'm calling plays with or the other safety. Like, dude, it was freezing.
I mean, it's also a little human to say, man, this is going to hurt.
Right. Oh, no doubt. Oh, matter of fact, okay.
Think of how many players.
I don't want to wear sleeves, but I'm wearing sleeves.
You're right.
And guess what? I'm going to hit that guy so I can feel some warmth inside of me now because I want to hit somebody because I'm cold out here. And as soon as I run to the sideline, I'm right in front of the heat warmer.
Yeah.
So, no, but you just can't say that publicly.
Right.
There's certain things supposed to say in-house. It's just like growing up with your family, your brothers and sisters. There's things that happen inside your house. You don't tell everybody else. Maybe some close friends, but not, that ain't supposed to be public opinion. Just, my brother got in the fight. He blacked the other brother's eye, man. I couldn't believe it. What? You can't be telling all that stuff.
615-737-1045. The question is, what is your level of faith in the Titans head coach and GM to fix things in 2025? We're going to go to Alex in Franklin who wants to talk about Callahan. Alex, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, Blaine, Zach. Thanks for taking my call. I do think Rand and Callahan should come back for one more year, but under the condition they make changes. I think they've, at critical moments, they've lifted every moment. But the thing I think that bothers me the most is they don't hold, players accountable, particularly Jeffrey Simmons after the Buck Rising incident in his comments the other day. They don't seem to hold him accountable at all. My problem is, of Jeffrey Simmons' comments yesterday is he was the wrong guy to say it. But I have a question for Blaine, I think they should trade Jeffrey Simmons to send a message, but I know they won't because I think they're afraid they're going to be fired like John Robinson was after the A.J. Brown thing. So what's your take on that, Blaine? Thanks for taking my call.
No, probably. I think boy, I don't think they will, but I'm not going to take it off the table. I think if it brings value that they think that they can get multiple players or multiple draft picks, I think absolutely it's on the table for sure. And sometimes you have to part ways with great players because of the situation of the whole entire organization.
Right.
And that's when it's tough because, he is an elite player. But if he's not on the field as much as I want to or impacting the game, it just not enough for based off what we're paying, it would be worth it, especially at this moment in time when we're also rebuilding. So
that's how I look at it.
So that's what makes me say there is a possibility that could happen. Not saying it will, because the opportunity may not present itself. But when you have elite players and other teams would covet, he becomes an initial target because he's probably, if not the best player, one of the best players, the top 5 players on the team.
And I look at it from a perspective of NFL business, not from Alex. I get what he's coming from. He's coming from a message sending standpoint. I don't agree with that. That's what bad teams do. They send a message by now. Listen, you send a message in bad performance by benching a player, or cutting them, but trading this guy because he yelled at a radio host and they listen. Them two grown men, they went out there and they handled their business between them, and that's what grown men are supposed to do. Now, if he was causing disruptions in the locker room, demanding to be traded, if he was, just being remember how Rashard Matthews was towards the end of his career where he was just a jerk. Yeah. I mean, for this whole time, if he was that kind of a guy, that's a little bit different. But this is more from a business standpoint. You are in the rebuilding year. You are in the midst of a rebuild. Now, I want to go back to that. So remind me to go back to that. But you're in the midst of a rebuild. You need to if you can get a couple first-round picks, that changes the entire complexion of what you could do in drafts. when it comes to finding a quarterback, when it comes to getting players, making other splash trades. So that's where I'm open to the idea. I'm like you. I'm not pushing for it. I'm not saying they should, not saying they will, but that is the part of the NFL business regardless, because we already know that teams called for Jeffrey Simmons at the trade deadline. So we know teams are probably going to call all offseason. That rumor is going to be there all offseason. And it will likely be there for Harold Landry too. So those rumors that will be out there, those, hints and all this kind of stuff, that's just the cost of doing business in the NFL when you're in the midst of a rebuild or a reset, however you want to label it, and you have elite players that can garner a lot of draft picks. So I want to go back to the rebuild. So I think a lot of this is where we go back and we have a lot of issues with the messaging that constantly comes out of this building, because we've talked about why did they say that, or why did Rand say this? What is the players doing? And I think there was a failed consistent message going through this offseason, because at the beginning, like we've detailed before on the show, in February, it was like reset, takes time, give us years, blah, 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 which is the right approach. And then it turned into, we checked all the boxes. He's up in a booth. Rand Carthon, we checked all the boxes. We got all these great players. We're going to be competitive. And the messaging sort of kind of went the other way. And listen, media here, big perpetrator of that. No one in national media bought into it. All of us local media people, for the most part, bought into a really competitive team. Not a contending team,
right,
a competitive team.
Yeah.
So, and I think we kind of got, as the kids say, lost in the sauce. And we expected different outcomes, and everything that has happened takes time. And you got to allow the concrete to cure, right? And then you build then your foundation is set, and then you start building the frame, and then you're doing all this. And I'm sure that is way out of the order at some point, because I'm not a construction worker or anything. Don't build houses, but you have to do all this stuff before the house is built. And I think we all got kind of a little lost in the sauce. So I think that's where I think people's disappointment lies, not just the losses. And then those losses sting, and then they turn into personal attacks on Brian Callahan and all this stuff. Vrabel's way, that everybody this morning that was calling in, that wore thin on the players during losses. It works great when you're winning.
Right.
But when you're losing, that doesn't work great. That New England way wears thin. Look at Bill Belichick. That wore thin on those players. And listen, Brian Callahan's way is not working right now, but this is a player issue, in my opinion, right now. And now we got to get all these players we got to get better players, because if you start looking at what they're doing coaching, because I've heard a lot of people say they don't hold anybody accountable. Well, that's not true.
Well, I don't understand. What makes them think that when they say that, though? I'm trying to figure out, where is that coming from?
Well, we know that this is not just because of Alex's thing.
Jackson, and he yelled at Levis coming off earlier in the season. I mean, I don't know what else you can do.
Well, because they all wanted the special teams coach to be fired in the middle of a season, even though there is no quality replacement. But it's very easy to blame one person instead of trying to blame 11 people.
Right.
And we have talked about it. I talked about it on our podcast.
They bring it in special teams players. So
that's what I'm saying.
Always tell you what they're thinking.
Yes,
I fully agree. They think it's the player and not the coaching.
If Colt Anderson were to get fired, like I said yesterday, I think it's more purely optics than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
Or someone came in and told him. And this wasn't a buddy hire. Just because someone works with someone at some point in time, they technically aren't buddy hires. Is that a relationship hire? Sure.
Yeah.
But Colt Anderson wasn't the only person that interviewed for the job. They thought he was the best guy for the job. And then he got saddled with players, and then he pulled and replaced players and all this kind of stuff. They're taking steps, and we're going to break that down, the special teams, when we come back. Because I'm glad you brought it up, because I had notes for you. And then we're also going to get to your phone, 615-737-1045. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 1045 The Zone.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation? We're going to go straight to the phones to Gilbert in California. Wants to talk about Callahan and Rand Carthon.
Yeah, we in Cali.
Gilbert, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
What's going on?
What's happening, Gilbert?
Yeah, I think they can change it around, but the thing I really feel they need to do to change it around is they have to get back to where the reason why we brought them in. Callahan needs to fix the offense, and his dad needs to fix the offensive line, and that's who I think the Titans need to start from. And I think that we need to bring in competition for Will Levis because he's shown me he's got better, but to me he's more of a quality backup than a starting quarterback. And I think if them two can come together and get their quarterback, I want a quarterback that I can go in, that I can trust, like, okay, I have a chance of winning the game with a quarterback. I can't go in when you have to put handcuffs on the quarterback and babysit him, and we still haven't got a win. I'm based on results. So I have faith they can turn it around when they get back to the drawing board and fill in the right type of players.
Well, hold up, Gilbert. But do you think Will Levis did anything to lose the game last game? Now, I ain't saying to win it because he definitely didn't do that. But did he do anything to lose the game?
No at all, sir. I would say no, he didn't do anything to lose it, but I just don't see – I mean, he maybe – because you got to give it to Will Levis. He's had 5 different coordinators. That was the same excuse everybody made for Marcus Mariota, and he has a new one here. So next year, if he can take the position and be what I want him to be, I'm very open to it, but I don't think anything should be given to anybody considering our record.
I'm with you. Good call. Good call.
Good call, Gilbert. I fully agree. I mean, you got to fix the right tackle issue because we saw that Bill Callahan, what he's been able to do for most of the year with the other players. It's just this right tackle situation is just untenable. Yes, I know that J.C. Latham is kind of hitting a rough patch, a little rookie wall. I understand that people now want to call him a bust or he's regressed and all this kind of stuff because nobody can have a bad game anymore. Oh. And I do agree. The offense, I think, is fine. I think once you fix the offensive line and I think the scheme itself is fine. Mm-hmm. I think there's some player issues here and there. You probably need a little bit more speed somewhere on this team. Mm-hmm. I think you may need a secondary running back or Tyjae Spears at least to be more involved and healthy, I guess I should say. And you probably need a really good athletic tight end. You just need players that are a notch above than some of the players that you have on the roster right now. And you need one several notches above in right tackle. But I do agree. But the only way that all that stuff gets fixed is if you keep everybody together. If you get rid of Brian Callahan, well, as the caller said, he's including Penn State, obviously, but that would be offensive coordinator number 6.
Mm-hmm.
Scheme number 6.
And 3 in the NFL.
And 3 in the NFL. So, but I do agree, got to bring in competition. You got to have someone better than Mason Rudolph, and you got to make it a little bit more of a push. He's got to feel that heat on the back of his neck in the offseason, like, this guy could come for my job. Listen,
what age are you talking about, though?
Huh?
Like what kind of competition? Like a guy who's actually better than
Well, that's
him?
what I was going to say. I mean, get a guy that can push him. I don't know what that means because, Mason Rudolph isn't a guy that really is going to push him. So you got to get a step above Mason Rudolph, whether that's a rookie quarterback or a veteran.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, that doesn't matter to me as much.
Here's what I was thinking when I said that.
Yeah.
A proven quarterback, an actual starter. So if it was up to you and you're the GM and you're Rand Carthon, and let's just say Will Levis plays like this.
Yeah.
Just average, solid, nothing spectacular, didn't lose game, but didn't win any. Couldn't put him on the back when he needed to. All right? Would you trade for a 4th-round pick for an aging quarterback, but who shows that he still can get it done like Kirk Cousins?
Ooh. No, because that's too expensive.
Well, I know it could cost. Well, what if he says the Falcons say we'll pay half his salary?
I'd have to look at it, but that'd be fine. Like, I'd be okay with that.
He's pushing them.
Yeah.
That guy's coming in to be the starter.
Yeah, but I think you need to I don't know if you need to bring in a guy that is a starter.
Gotcha.
Like, you bring in a guy that can push him. Bring in a guy like Jameis Winston.
Okay.
Bring in a guy like Justin Fields. Even if you draft a guy, I still think a guy could probably push him. It doesn't have to be a high draft pick or anything, and you don't have to give up picks, but you got to find something like that. Let's go to the phones real quick to Alex, who wants to talk about Callahan and Rand. That's the 2 Alexes today. So, Alex number 2, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey guys. So to me, with Callahan and Levis, if one goes, they both got to go, because the worst thing you can do is replace the quarterback this year, not have success, and then get rid of the head coach and the GM next year, because then the team's not going to be as attractive for coaches if they've spent a high draft pick on a quarterback the year before that didn't work out. Right. So I think 1 year is not enough to prove concept for either of them. You give them another year, and if it doesn't work next year, you clean house completely top to bottom.
Well said, Alex.
Fully agree.
Yep, I do
fully agree with Alex. Because I'm like, if you're getting rid of Rand Carthon, and let's say unless you're getting rid of Rand Carthon and putting Chad Brinker as the GM role, and maybe that's the only way that this scenario doesn't play out. But if you're firing Rand Carthon, you need to fire Chad Brinker. You need to fire Brian Callahan, and you need to find whatever head coach and GM come in, they get full carte blanche to do whatever they want to do at the quarterback situation. As an owner, your directive should not be, we have to build around Will Levis. We believe in Will Levis. Your directive should be, find me a quarterback that you love, that can run your system, that can take us to the next level. If that happens to be Levis, that's your call. But that's where you got to be. And that's where I'm at. And I don't think they should do that. I think the most of the callers that have called in are like, you got to give them another year. And I think that's the more sensible approach.
It's tough because you're taking these losses in lumps.
That's what it all comes down to. These losses sting.
It hurts. It burns. But I don't know what would be even funnier than everybody talking about it'd be chaos in the locker room, at the quarterback room with Levis.
It would be fun.
Winston.
It'd be great for us.
Or would you take Levis and bring back Mariota?
I would. I would be open to it
as well.
I would be open to it. There's a lot of different quarterbacks that you could bring in that can at least push them to some degree.
Benjamin Bug.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I look at it like this, and we'll talk about special teams after the break. This team, when it comes back down to accountability, this team has shown accountability. This idea that they have not shown accountability just because they happen to not fire a guy who's likely it's not his fault. When you look at the tape and start breaking it down, just because they didn't fire a guy mid-season to hire an assistant or promote an assistant that probably interviewed for the job and didn't get it anyway, like all this stuff, like they're showing accountability in their actions. And we're going to break that down on how that relates to special teams and why I think we both kind of think maybe Colt Anderson's back next year, that it's really the player's fault and it's a player issue. And that could be summed up for the whole team, your offense and your defense, player issues, not coaching issues. We'll talk about that when we come back. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, folks, you know I've been talking about Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance for years because they're the leading experts in sports medicine and performance and the team physician for the NFL, college, and high school athletics across Tennessee. And TOA provides sports medicine coverage to more high school and college sports teams than any orthopedic group in the state of Tennessee. They have 29 locations throughout the state and over 100 physicians throughout Middle and East Tennessee to take care of all your musculoskeletal needs. And TOA has 11 urgent care locations and walk-in availability 7 days a week. They offer direct access to sports medicine and performance, physical therapy, and nutrition. Personalized rehabilitation plans to enhance mobility, reduce pain, and improve overall physical function for patients recovering from injuries or surgeries. TOA also offers sports performance training, a specialized program designed to enhance athletic performance and provide tailored training solutions for athletes at all levels, Sammy. So please check out the services at TOA.com. Yes, that's TOA.com.
Lyons here of 104.5 The Zone, and as the resident sports analytics nerd, I know data, and the numbers tell me that the dual power of radio and digital on 104.5 has always delivered for local advertisers. Now's your chance to book your 2025 marketing campaign early with special savings and incentives. Reach out today to your local ad representative or go to 1045thezone.com/epic.
Hour 2 of Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. And we're going to go straight to the phones. We're going to go to JK in Mount Juliet, who wants to talk about the Titans special teams, because that's what we're going to be talking here shortly. So we're going to have him kick off our special teams talk. JK, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey guys, I know Colt Anderson has gotten a lot of flack for his coaching, and maybe that's legit, but I also don't feel most teams are gonna really play their starting 11, either offense or defense, on special teams.
Oh yeah, very true.
When you look at the Titans roster, we're already getting hit with some key injuries, with Cushenberry out, with Snead out, with a handful of other players. I think when you look at our roster going into this season, our depth was not strong to begin with.
Exactly.
So you already have a lot of backup players going into starting roles, which means we are fielding special teams with a lot of guys from the practice squad, a lot of people that we've picked up, mid-season, and they're just, the talent level isn't there to compete with other teams that are more fleshed out.
Fully agree. I mean, the callers today have been mostly reasonable and on point all day today. So, it's credit to our listeners, I guess.
Excellent job. Excellent.
But, I mean, that's true because, one of my big things is that we've talked about all offseason, any podcast you listen to, any radio show you listen to, the main point was, man, this roster sure is top-heavy. This roster sure has a lot of starters, but, man, depth behind them is very shaky. And now that depth is being thrusted into roles, everybody just wants to forget about their comments earlier in the year. And nothing has changed. Depth has gotten bad. But this idea that they don't hold people accountable, Blaine, that's been a real bothersome. So week 1, let's go through a couple of examples. Week 1, Jack Gibbons gets manhandled and carried like a fireman rescuing a cat out of a burning building, and then the punt gets blocked. Okay? That is not on coaching. That is on a player just getting owned by a grown man. And that happens in the NFL sometimes. And it led to a punt block. It was really bad. But that sometimes, that happens when you got certain matchups. Now, he's not coaching him to do that. He's coaching him to take on the block. He's coaching him to have technique. And he didn't have it, so he gets carried in. So they're going to use that as a teaching moment for everybody, right? They're going to coach him up based on that film because that's what coaches do. Coaches will take that film, they're going to coach off of it, and all that kind of stuff.
No. Here's the issue.
And there's going to be some yelling, but
no, right, of course. No, but here's the issue: are the other players paying attention? This is what happens in the meeting because some dude sitting right next to you is over there snoozing. See, the room is dark.
Yeah.
I remember one player, I won't say name, would be like, hey, man, every time the lights go dark, man, it's hard for me to stay awake or to pay attention. See? So guess what? You can learn from other people's mistakes. And I think sometimes the attention span of some of these guys, man, in these meeting rooms is just lost in the shuffle. So I really believe that.
That all happened. We never hear, Jack Gibbons is still playing punt coverage, still playing special teams. We never hear his name mentioned for a little bit. But the next week, Julius Chestnut makes a boneheaded play, lets a guy go in, blocks Ryan Stonehouse because he didn't even engage with him for just a second. He just let the guy go right by him. You can look at it on the thing. That is a player issue.
Yes.
Guess what? You know how I know it's a player issue? Because we haven't seen Julius Chestnut on punt coverage since that play. He hasn't played a single lick of punt coverage since then, since that play. You know why? Because they held him accountable and they said,
they did.
That's two blocked punts in a row. Unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
We flash forward to week 4. Week 4, we've talked about on this show how that punt almost got blocked because Calais Campbell went through, barely touched. Just a hand got put on because Jack Gibbons was reading the wrong guy and didn't use common sense and blocked the guy in front of him.
The most dangerous player.
Yes. Yeah, the most dangerous guy is Calais Campbell. Gibbons makes a in-the-moment decision, chooses the wrong guy, almost gets blocked. So Gibbons allowed a punt block week 1, almost allowed another one. Guess where Gibbons was during punt coverage the rest of the time? Not on the field. They benched him.
Mm-hmm. Accountability.
From there, you look at the Green Bay Miami, Indianapolis, and even the Bills, we weren't talking about special teams blunders and special teams outside of Ryan Stonehouse not being able to accurately punt the ball in certain situations, which he is trying to learn. He's trying to learn how to play punter, which is kind of like Will Levis is trying to learn how to play quarterback. He's trying to learn how to play punter. Then the Lions game happens. Special teams fiascos because of the coverage units. Guess what they do? They go out and sign Justin Hardy, one of the best coverage units guys. They get Bryce Oliver involved because the guys that they had put in at gunner weren't good. Guess what has been fixed for the most part? Kickoff coverage.
In the gunner situation.
Then you got Jaquan Jackson now, who has now started fumbling. He's fumbled five times.
This is why I don't coach. You fix one problem, there's another
problem.
I'm like, we can't even predict this crap.
He's fumbled 3 punts, 2 kickoffs. 2 in New England.
Voting for AFC South.
Yeah, which is insane. 2 in New England, 1 in Detroit. He didn't lose either of those. Then he muffed against Houston. They count that as a muffed punt, not a fumble, is what they're counting it officially.
Yeah.
And then he fumbled last week. And you know what Brian Callahan said at his presser? That his getting benched was punitive because you can't put the ball on the ground twice.
Right. So he's holding all the guys accountable. Here's what I think is why people think this. You tell me if I'm wrong. It's because when Bill Callahan does an interview, he does exactly what you're supposed to do. He doesn't throw players under the bus. He respectfully, talks about the game and what has happened and who made mistakes without throwing players on the bus. Because if you keep throwing players on the bus, guess they're going to be like, hey, man, I'm going to start playing for me then. I'm going to get you. You're out of the picture. So he does it the right way. That doesn't mean behind the scenes he ain't getting in their butt and behind, because I guarantee he is. Because guess what? He getting chewed out too.
But also,
what's going on? Yeah. What's happening? And he's telling them, this is what's going on. And that's why then they hence go sign somebody else. So I think he is holding people accountable. It's just that he's not doing it publicly. So people make the assumption that he's a nice guy. Now, I guarantee you, in a competitive as the NFL is, how competitive it is, all these coaches, hey, man, behind the scenes, it is nothing like what you think.
Okay, look at it this way. If your job as a coach is not only to coach, but to coach and develop.
Yes.
You can't develop people that don't play. And Jaquan Jackson's a 6th-round rookie. Listen, he fumbled twice in New England, 1 time in Detroit. And between Detroit and Houston, he never fumbled after that. And then he muffed a punt in Houston, then fumbled this last week.
How many has he lost, though?
He's only lost those 2, last 2. And those last 2 were the breaking of the straws.
Yeah.
The straw on the camel's back. It's like they were kind of playing with fire or coaching with patience.
Because it didn't hurt the team.
Right.
This time it did.
So they were like, okay, we can coach this. We can develop this. Here's what you do in Jaquan. Here's what you need to do. Here's what we're going to practice. Here's what we're going to do in these drills. And then it still happened. And that's when you bench. Like, that's when you got to exhaust all your efforts as a coach for some of these players. And right now you're going to see, likely, I would be very surprised if you saw Jaquan Jackson on Sunday against the Jaguars in special teams role.
Well, I will say this. In a backup role. So if something happens to whoever they have back there, they may be forced to. You just don't know.
Right.
But he will be the number 2 because he's probably going to dress and he's.
So all these people that want Colt Anderson fired right now, what if nothing happens the rest of the year on special teams?
And they do a good job. How many games we got left?
We got we're 3-9, so we have 5 games left.
5.
So for these last 5 games, does he still deserve to be fired, or did they fix all the problems because they got the right players? Players over plays, right?
Yeah, I think so. But, sometimes perception is reality, and when things are bad and the record's not good, you got to, sometimes.
And then that's the thing, like that to
heads,
me.
But
Colt Anderson firing is just to appease the people, the masses. It's not because he deserves it, in my opinion. And listen, some of these things probably are coaching issues, but a lot of this stuff is probably player issues. I mean, I look at it this way, Blaine. A lot of these players, sometimes they don't play special teams. Like the guys they're bringing in off the street or something, or in subbing in for these guys that didn't do it. They are guys that are experienced special teamers and have the desire to play.
Yeah.
And you got to have those things. Mm-hmm. If I took you to if I brought you to my house and I say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to play Call of Duty. And I'm going to say, because this is what coaching is. Here's what we do it. I'm explaining all the controls, explaining all the moves. I'm going to show you on the screen what the game is like and all this stuff. And then I'm going to give you the controls. You're probably going to get killed in like the first 10 seconds.
Right.
You're probably not even be able to, for those that play, not even deploy your parachute to land safely.
What you talking about?
But at the end of the day,
you did try to teach me right before we
But
came
that's
on
like
air.
special teams, right? I mean, these guys are going into the room. They're being shown film. They're being taken through drills. They're being doing this and doing that. And then it's a different player. It's a different scenario that just happens to pop up. It's not like they're coaching these things to happen. I don't think any coach in the NFL is trying to coach these things to happen. But in these particular big scenarios that everybody wants to harp on, like Jaquan Jackson fumbling, then you immediately say, well, Cole Anderson needs to be fired. That is a major disconnect of whose fault and responsibility that is.
And guess what? Jaquan Jackson is probably just as surprised as everybody else. He probably hardly ever fumbled in college.
Yeah.
That's what the crazy part of this is. I think, to me, a true coach is actually when there are mistakes and how you correct them and then connect with the actual player to make sure that he gets out of what you want out of him. And sometimes there's a disconnect in the communication to players and they don't get it because you can't coach every scenario. And I think this is what happens on special team because you can't go over every freaking scenario what a player will do against you. Some of it is just common sense football. And a lot of these players just are phenomenal athletes and they really never, been taught just the fundamentals of how to play. Like, hey, man, if you're going to go over here, you got to get back in your lane about time the guy gets the ball and gets to where you may potentially should be.
Yep.
They don't get it. They go, well, I ran on my lane because he was blocking right there, and then I ran over here. But they had a return right. We showed y'all how the return right is to be reading certain players. So you need to get back in your lane. You caused a huge gap here, even though your guy missed you blocking. See, that's what I'm talking about. And I think these are the things that goes on. And the coach will be like, well, I thought it'd be common sense that he knew to get back in his lane. I said you got to be down in your lane. Like,
there's not a lot of reason to be hand-holding.
Right, but I think that's what needs to be done at this point in time with this team anyway. Because some of it, I don't understand why some of these guys don't understand what's going on out there. It's baffling.
Yeah.
When I'm watching it, I'll be like, oh, my God.
I think there's a little bit of a a little bit of a skill level issue as well. And I think that they have found the guys to start fixing. Because we got to remember, Cedric Gray missing that tackle last week. That was his first ever NFL play, even including the preseason.
I'm sorry, but he got
a tackle.
Oh, my God.
But I mean, at the end of the day, that's his fault. Yeah, that is not the coach's fault.
It is.
When we come back, we're going to have Coach Mack for his weekly Mack Attack here on Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons on 104.5 The Zone.
Mack. Hey, this is Blaine Bishop, and I want to know if you have heard about peptides. And peptides are shaking up the fitness world. They are naturally occurring aminos in our bodies. So as we age, they start to decline. And at some point, they may need to be supplemented. This is why our workouts can stop being productive at the gym. And maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, or perhaps you feel tired all the time. You may be struggling to stay awake in the evenings when you get home from work. Well, if you have the thought this is just a normal part of aging, it doesn't have to be that way. Peptides are proven to increase muscle and performance, burn fat, and help with recovery between workouts and more. Peptides can even help with motivation and mental clarity. These are all safe, naturally occurring aminos, not pharmaceuticals. A natural and holistic way to get your body back to peak performance. Plus, Edge Peptide Therapy has the most comprehensive blood panel around. So when you go to Edge, you will know exactly what is going on inside of your body and what it needs to get back to peak performance. So feel better from the inside out. And all you have to do is go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878. Hey, it's Blaine Bishop here for 104.5 The Zone. The dual power of radio and digital on 104.5 has always delivered results for the local advertisers. Now's your chance to book your 2025 marketing campaign early with this special savings and incentive. So reach out today to our local representatives, or you can just go to 1045thezone.com/epic.
Hey, Brent Doherty with 3HL 104.5 The Zone. This is year 25 for me in radio. I believe in radio, and I believe in our crew. There's no question about it. We have a fun job. We tell jokes on the radio. We watch a lot of sports. We come in here and talk with listeners and get on the couch sometimes where people need to vent. We're all of those things. You know what else we are? Our job is to help you grow your business, and that's what we are here to do in 2025. Make sure you advertise with 104.5 The Zone. It's 1045thezone.com/epic. I'll be glad to help you out. Any of our crew members on 104.5 The Zone will be able to help you out, and we'll do it in a big way. Let's go.
Hey guys, we have so many great relationships with so many great partners across 2 decades here at 104.5 The Zone, and one of our favorite parts of working with so many great companies and people who run them is the opportunity to deliver on what those businesses are trying to accomplish with both digital and one of the strongest radio frequencies in the Southeast. 104.5 The Zone has a strong reputation when it comes to maximizing reach, and that is what we are here to provide for you and your company and business and your employees. We want to make sure that we are working together towards those goals, and that's what your local ad representative will be able to help you out with. You can also go to 1045thezone.com/epic for more information.
Hi everyone, Dawn Davenport Babs from 3HL. Listen, it is so successful if you advertise with us. Radio and digital, you put those two together and it is a win for your business, and we would love to help you out. Plus, I always end up using our advertisers and doing whatever service they do. I've got backyard, windows, everything, because we want to help you grow your business. So reach out to us, let us know, let us help you and your business. All you have to do, go to 1045thezone/epic. Hey, it's Callahan.
It's Tuesday, and you know what that music means. It means it's time for Coach Mack to join Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone for his weekly Mack Attack every Tuesday at 2:20 p.m. He's brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. And, of course, you can hear him tonight right after 3HL on Mack Talk right here on 104.5 The Zone, where you can also ask him questions as well. And, of course, you can hear his voice every Sunday on Titans Radio. And, Mack, have you ever been a part of a loss where you look up and just wonder, what the hell happened by as early as the first quarter? Because that was a wild string of events, and I just could not imagine what a coach or a team is saying to each other and talking about on the sidelines when they look up at that score and just be like, what happened?
Yeah, well, Zach, I really never have. The only thing that I can relate it to is way back. When I was coaching here, the disaster that we had up in New England one year, when we're really having a down year, and it ended up being 59-0, and it started a tsunami very early in a huge snowstorm, and then it just got worse from the first quarter on. The first 19 minutes of that ball game Sunday was just, it was hard to imagine, what you were looking at. And again, we're
on Titans Radio, when we're broadcasting the game, Mike Keith and I, we're not going to spin it anyway. We're just going to relay the facts as to what was happening. And what was happening is that, Washington basically was just doing things at will, especially running the football. And I know this, after all the years of coaching defense in this league, when someone can run the football at will on you, that is something that really, really bothers you. And so I've never experienced anything like that, because as a defensive coach, the first thing you really want to hang your hat on is being able, at least physically, to stop them from running the football. They were unable to do that, and then it went downhill from there.
I mean, when you are in a game like that, and maybe not in your experience, you haven't had a game really like this, but how does a coach keep everything on the sidelines from just completely melting down and players blaming others and the defense blaming the offense, or the offense blaming the defense? Like, does that say a lot about Brian Callahan that he was able to kind of keep all that together?
Well, the blame doesn't do any good once something like that starts. What you have to be able to do is you have to be able to get the dam plugged up for the next play, and they were never able to do that. Look, those 8 gaps across the front of the line of scrimmage, they have never changed since football has been invented. And that counter tray and that gap scheme that Washington was running with great success, I mean, they had shown that all year. That's not anything that any defense in this league has not seen. And it wasn't so much the quarterback designed runs, because really the quarterback running, he really didn't have to do a whole lot that game as far as running, because they were dominating the line of scrimmage. Not only line of scrimmage, but the front 7. With misfits, with knocking them off the ball, with getting clean pullers through, to be able to get in front of those players, the running backs that had the football. When you've got a safety that's making as many tackles as happened in that ball game, then things aren't going well at that first and second level. And that was what was most disconcerting.
Yeah, Daryl Worley with 17 tackles, which is just wild. We're on with Coach Mack, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford.
Well, Coach, on that same note, I just feel like when things go awry, whether it's on offense or defense, I never get to see, like, what's the next plan? What's the counter punch? Well, hey, we're not stopping around. Well, let's make some adjustments. Or is it just more player-driven and they're just not doing their assignments, each player taking their own turn to mess up, even on offense when they get behind the chains?
Yeah, well, it was the run game. It was all assignments. You've been involved in that before.
Oh, it's happened. Corey Dillon got us one time. Ooh.
Yeah, there you go. And I was going to,
Monday night.
And again, we've all been there, and it's something when you're experiencing it, you're thinking, what in the world? Just somebody make a play, somebody get off a block, and it just continues to roll downhill on you. It wasn't so much adjustments; it was the fact they were getting beat. As I said earlier, when I was just talking with Zach there, when you're getting beat physically up front defensively, that is what the issue was in this ball game. They lost the line of scrimmage. Now, offensively, once you're down 28-0, then a lot of your plans go out the window. Then you're on your left foot, and the defense, Washington's defense now, they could just lay back and play, do anything they wanted to. Dan Quinn could do anything he wanted to defensively because he had a 4-score separation. So, to me, it all started with the fact that they were getting dominated, offensively running the football.
Well, they also had some drops along the way, too, there. Okay, take us through being a head coach. You get behind 20 points, and I'm going to put my quarterback in a compromising position and my offensive line because now they think we're going to have to throw much more to catch up. How hard is it for a head coach to say, no, stick with the game plan, and then as the game goes along, especially when it's early, to really continue with your game plan? Maybe you make some adjustments in your game plan. Let's say all of a sudden maybe we do hurry up, but we still run the plays that we think will work. That way we're not putting our team and our offense in a compromising position.
Well, I mean, look, after the first 19 minutes, there were still a lot of minutes left to play in that ball game, and so you still had to be able, once you got the ball, to progress it. But you start compounding it with turnovers. You get turnovers in the plus territory, And now all of a sudden you put yourself in a situation, and it's a whole team thing. It's players and coaches. You get yourselves in that type of situation, then the first thing that you can't do is completely abandon everything and start to panic. But you reach a certain point, you reach an inflection point with a ball game like that as to where you're just trying to move the chains. And then, as you just pointed out, they had some drops. They had some, and look, the quarterback is always going to be the guy that's, when something happens that they're going to get, they're going to get the finger pointed at it. The quarterback actually played pretty well in those circumstances, but the circumstances that were presented, again, I go back to the first 19 minutes of that ball game, completely flipped the script.
We can't predict, both offensive tackles are going to false start and all these different things and then get behind the chains, and they never have done well once that happens, let alone get behind in the game. Kind of explain to the listeners, you just mentioned it, Levis and how you get to kind of judge him. And I didn't think he did anything to help them win the game, but he definitely didn't do anything to lose the game. And I went back and watched. He did some incredible throws. And I'm going to just point this one out, if you can recall, where he spun out of a sack and then moves up to the left in the pocket. And I don't even know how he knew. He must have known where the players were, and throws a strike on a 7 route, falling down. I was like, whoa, that is an incredible, impressive play, highlight reel type throw.
Well, first of all, I like the description, and you were spot on, because that was trying to make something happen. Because again, that defense was able to tee off. You've played in defenses like that before that have opponents down like that, where those guys up front can get in those track stances and just come off, and then back there in the back end, you are able to freewheel and take a lot of chances and do what you need to do. Now, I know exactly the play you were talking about, because I commented on it, during the broadcast. I said, you know what? That will get lost probably in the way that this game is going to end up. But that was really a pretty decent play by the quarterback in a really hard situation.
Yeah, so kind of explain to us, and I was just talking about that play, but how a young quarterback can still grow even within a loss like that.
You know what? And that's a great point that you make, Blaine. I'm glad that you made it. I mean, you played enough ball that you could see it. The quarterback didn't panic at all in this ball. The quarterback just kept, go out there, try to move the chains. And again, the quarterback was throwing some footballs that were dropped, and you, as a quarterback in that type of situation, you can't react on a negative point and start worrying about that. You got to move on to the next play. So that to me is when your quarterback, because he's going to have the ball in his hands, and people on the sideline, your players know that you're in a trying circumstance. If you don't show panic and you don't show the fact that, look, we're going to continue to keep going. This is what's important right now. That was very, very important. Now, did it help the score? Not at all, but it does help the fact that you can see some growth in your quarterback as far as the way that you've got, because things aren't always going to go well, and things were going really, really bad in that ball game. But you can't, if your quarterback starts to panic, then the whole thing is a problem. He never panicked in that ball game.
Yeah, and to me that shows a sign of maturity from Levis, because it's innate in him that he tries to press and tries to make things when they're not there, and he didn't do that.
You know what, Blaine? And again, as I say, I'm glad you saw it. It doesn't surprise me that you saw it, because you played the game for a long time. I coached it for a long time. Those are the types of things that you look underneath the things that are happening to say, at least we can work on this.
There you have it, Coach Mack, giving us a Mack attack.
And sticking with Levis, I mean, what was I took away from it was every time he got hit, he just got up and just was, okay, next play, here we go. And he took a lot of quarterback hits that didn't result in sacks, because of the other thing that he worked on was not only his pocket presence and his movement, but also he threw the ball away. And I just want to talk, in terms of these last 4 games, he has improved every week. It may not result to wins, but this is a team sport, not quarterback wins. But what have you seen from just last week to this week that you thought that, man, they really nailed that all week long at practice, and he really put that into practice on the field? Because I was thinking, man, He had 3 throwaways in this game, and he had that pocket presence, and he was moving around, and he never got rattled. And it was like the things that we wanted him to do in last week's game, he did in this week's game.
Well, you know what, Zach, and that's right. And we've seen it ever since he came back, from the injury. And I think there's a whole lot of that to just finally learning and taking in the coaching, and also being able to sit back and watch and go, there's the quarterback in a game in the National Football League. You have got to be able to do all of the things, all of the normal things, and the progression of your offense. You've got to be able to do those things on a consistent basis before you can ever get to the big moments where then you've got to do something, out of the ordinary. And that's what he's doing now. He's playing quarterback now. That was an unusual situation. I mean, you guys have both brought it up. When you're down that much, you're down 4 scores the first 19 minutes of the ball game. Okay? So that has to flip a switch somewhere in your mind that's saying, look, I can't go out there and panic, and you can't get all of those scores back in one drive. You just can't do it. That is when you have to learn the discipline of just going play to play to play. You don't want to be in those situations, but I agree. I think we can all agree, whether you're winning the ball game or not, if your quarterback is progressing, then that's what you're looking for. And then, look, everybody's involved in success and failure of a National Football League team. But it's not ever just one person or one unit's fault. But in this ball game, when you get behind like that, then there's a lot of things that you have to still be able to go as a coach and as a player within yourself and say, we've got to stick with what the course is and not panic. That to me that's one of the hardest things in this league is when you're on the back end of a runaway, you can't panic.
A kind of a perplexing theme that has come out since this game is this notion that there's a lack of accountability with the special teams unit from the outside looking in. But when you really dive into it, we talked about it at the top of the show. I mean, they benched Julius Chestnut after he let a blocked punt go. They after Gibbons in week 1 and then maybe a near miss in week 4, you never saw Jack Gibbons there, and they've made moves. They've signed moves. And then they benched Jaquan Jackson after a fumble. And I get what people are trying to say, well, he fumbled 3 times, 2 in New England, 1 in Detroit. They didn't lose it. Then he muffed a punt last week. Why is he still in the game? But a coach's job is also to develop players and coach players up. And it feels like they straddled that line between coaching with patience and playing with fire. But at the end of the day, I don't get a sense that this team has an accountability problem. I mean, you're around the team a little bit more than we are. So what's your sense on that?
Yeah, well, and accountability is not. Look, you're as coaches and players, you're always accountable. Let's go back to what I've said for all the years I've been on the broadcast, and I learned this early in my career. Every day is an interview in this league, so there's huge accountability. But if you start replacing players that make mistakes in games, pretty soon you're going to run out of players. Now the turnovers. That is something that you just can't abide by, and you've got to have you've got to have another answer to put it in. But on a 53-man roster and also on your practice squad, who else do you have to put in? We're talking about punt returns now, or returns. I mean, the number one thing, first of all, is make correct decisions to catch the punt, and the second thing is don't turn the ball over, because those are huge field position metric flips. And so if that continues and it's been too much already, well then, they will find somebody else to do that job. But in the moment, what you have to be able to do, they made the switch on the kickoff, but right now, I don't know what their answers are as far as they could put somebody else back there to catch it. But if you're looking for returns, I don't know what their answers are right now, because I get to watch the team practice, but I'm not in their meetings and I'm not in their personnel meetings. Those types of things, you can't you're not just going to flip that switch immediately, in my mind. And look, the accountability, I mean, believe me, the players and the coaches know those things keep happening. There's going to be people held accountable.
Well, that was Coach Mack here on Mack Attack. We're brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Yeah, Coach Mack, before we let you go, naturally, I want to get your thoughts on Aziz Za'ire's hit on Trevor Lawrence since the Jags, who the Titans played next. And from your experiences when he played here last year as well, I know he's been suspended now for 3 games. So what'd you think about the hit? It was kind of a bang-bang, but I still thought he had a shot of not really getting him the way he did. He could have let up a little bit. I don't know. How did you view that?
Well, the thing, first of all, Blaine, the rules have changed since you played.
Yes, no doubt.
The rules have changed defensively.
Front slide, you got to stop, right?
No, the rules have changed defensively since I coached the game. As far as Mike Keith sent us a clip that showed Mike Singletary the year in 1988 when I was coaching. He was Defensive Player of the Year when he made a big hit on Pallure, the quarterback in Dallas, that was said the hit of the year. He was Defensive Player of the Year. You can't do that anymore. Yeah. That's the rules. You have to play within those rules, and within those rules, everybody has had to adjust their thinking and their game as far as playing defense.
Agree.
Now, the thing that was damning on that one, in my clear view of it, and I think everybody else is not so much that he made but that he threw the elbow in there. Mm-hmm. Threw the elbow in there to his head and neck area. I mean, you just can't have that. And then you start adding those up with the other things that he has done. I mean, even this year when we played down there, his out of bounds hit on Pollard. You can't play the game like that on defense anymore. It's the way the rules are. So he put himself in a very, very precarious situation with the league. And with the people that are going to make a statement that you can't play defense on a consistent basis like that if you're just going to continue to go outside the rules.
Real quick, I know the Jags have been in most games. To kind of give us a synopsis of the Jaguars.
Yeah, they've got good players. I think 7 out of 10 losses have been one score games. I mean, I just got through. I watched 5 games on every opponent, just like I was getting ready to coach it, just to look through. I mean, they've got players. I mean, it's shocking to me. And again, the National Football League, there's so many ifs and buts on every play and every series that all of a sudden end up either being wins or losses. You've got 2 football teams right now that are desperate for a lot of reasons to win. It's a division game. Even though Trevor Lawrence probably will not play in this game, I mean, Mac Jones is a first-round pick that is not an empty chair. This football team, you got 2 desperate football teams playing this weekend here. You've got to prepare and you've got to be on point because they have got legitimate players on that team.
Well, that's Coach Mack here for our weekly Mack Talk. We appreciate it. You can hear Coach Mack on Titans Radio every Sunday with Mike Keith. And then, of course, you have Mack Talk tonight, right after 3HL, 6 p.m. Really appreciate it, Coach Mack.
Thanks, Coach.
Guys, always appreciate you too. See you.
See ya. When we come back, we'll continue talking about the Titans, and we'll actually talk about this Aziz Al-Shaair hit and what that means for the Tennessee Titans going forward. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here, 104.5 The Zone.
Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you it'll be ready at 4 p.m. and it's not, people are really tired of that stuff. So if you've had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come on over to Eurofix. And Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable. And Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's really ready so you don't have to stand around and wait all freaking day. And Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer and without the dealer pricing. And that's because the dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of the dealership's overhead. As you know, that's a lot of money. So why would you want to pay for that? Well, a Eurofix Reliable also means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So make sure you call ahead as loaner cars are very, very popular. So if you're tired of the unreliable repair shops, come on over to Reliable, and that will mean Eurofix. Family owned for 24 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEuroFix.com. That's myEuroFix.com. But always tell them Blaze jump.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. Last call for phone calls. And Blaine, we were talking about the Azeez Al-Shaair hit on Trevor Lawrence. And I thought it was interesting that Ryan Clark, because the thing that came out was like, well, what else was he supposed to do? And Ryan Clark, who works for ESPN, former player, he came up with like 5 different things of what he can do and talked about it, diagrammed it, talked about what a player could do in the moment and to make sure that that doesn't happen. But I want to get your perspective, because obviously it's a bang-bang sport. It's a physical sport. Should quarterbacks quit sliding and maybe tumble forward with their back to them? I mean, is there a different way that maybe quarterbacks can approach it? Because we've seen Will Levis a couple of times. I probably because he doesn't know how to slide, but like he like tumbles forward like a roly-poly or something, and it puts his back to him, and he doesn't expose his head.
Well, I don't know, actually. I think they could, I actually, if I was offensively, I would do the slide just like Trevor Lawrence did. Because then I'm trying to bait the guy to actually do that and get a penalty.
So you're looking to get hit.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's hard because it's a bang-bang. I'm looking at it from a defensive perspective. It's hard for me to stop. Now, I agree with Coach Mack in that he didn't have to do the elbow part, and it had the brace on there, too.
He definitely deserves to get suspended.
No doubt.
Unfortunately,
agree.
just for 3 games, which means he'll be back for the Tennessee Titans game.
Oh, I thought he'd miss it. Okay.
No, so he'll miss the Miami, the Kansas City, and the Baltimore Ravens game, which is a...
Warning?
He got some emergency thing.
Weather. I hope. It freezes.
Emergency weather services.
Yes, No, it just freezes up everything. So just hold up. It'll stop. We can't tell.
It's the monthly test for whatever reason. All right, that was some emergency alert system or... What is that?
This is why I do not wear
There we go. Okay, the emergency alert system has finally... I guess they decided... I thought they normally test those at 12. Why are they doing it at 2:48? But apparently everybody else heard it, so that's just weird. But emergency tests were all fine.
It was because of the Jair hit. That was emergency.
It was that is the Call of Duty stuff. War was happening and everything. But that was wild. But going back to talking about the hit and the slide and everything, like that extra, Azeez Al-Shaair, he has a little bit of that extra nastiness to him.
I got perturbed last year because he got about 3 or 4 penalties after the play. And I said, as a veteran player, I'll give you a pass on one because now you're costing the actual team. And so he might have done it like 4 times, I can recall, because I kept saying on air, I don't know why he hit that guy late out of bounds. Then he actually
Tony Pollard hit last week?
I know, but he hit Pollard out of bounds late.
Yeah.
So that was exactly what he was doing when he played with the Titans. He's a good player, so I don't understand why he keeps doing that. And in that game against the Titans when he hit Pollard late, he was then explaining what happened to the head coach Ryans there on the sideline. And he wouldn't even look at him to me. He looked straight at the field and just was like, yeah, right, okay, well, don't do it again. And then he came back the next game and had this hit where he gets suspended.
I think he's got some issues. By the way, a critical point. Miami Dolphins, Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens are some big wins that you need for playoff seeding as far as where you are on, 1 through 4. You got the Indianapolis Colts still breathing down your neck with a very favorable schedule as well. Like, you've lost one of your best defenders because of a dumb play. Yeah. And at the worst time to do it. Yeah, and did you see that Nick Caserio came out? And he basically blasted the NFLPA. Couldn't believe that they put out that statement and used the words they did. They couldn't believe that he got suspended.
Oh, he definitely should have got suspended.
Yeah, I mean, he went.
He has a history and a pattern of doing this. This wasn't a one-time deal.
But he just went off. He was being crazy. So MVP or NFL VP of football.
Yeah, John Runyon. He was my teammate.
John Runyon. Your lack of sportsmanship and respect for the game of football and all those who play, coach, and enjoy watching it is troubling and does not reflect the core values of the NFL. And that's true. When you it's like Vontaze Burfict. It's not as bad as what Vontaze is, but when you have a pattern and a history like this, you're not showing your teammates respect, you're not respecting the game, and you're not showing your opponents any respect, because that could have been way worse than what it ended up being. Now, we don't know how long Trevor Lawrence is out. It is a lost season. They may just choose to take every precaution needed to make sure that he's okay. But that was a nasty hit.
Yeah, I just really thought it was unnecessary. It's almost like he's trying to show he's a tough guy with the hits out of bounds. I'm not just talking about that hit. So I just don't understand why he keeps doing it. Like, man, I should go back and watch San Francisco, because the Titans, the Texans, he's done it repeatedly.
Right.
And then so I'm sure he did it at San Francisco. I know he wasn't a starter, except with 1 year when the guy got hurt, and that's what kind of put him on the map. But I don't understand it. All it takes is one time. Trust me, I've been there. I had one hit. I got a penalty, and the coach says, not only did you're hurting yourself in your pocket, but you're hurting the team. Mm-hmm. Don't ever sacrifice. That's selfish when you start doing stuff like that to prove a point. Don't do it. And then that kind of sunk in. I'm glad somebody told me that after one time doing it. And then it should resonate with any player.
Well, look at it like this, and I think it's interesting. And listen, I get to a certain point that you want to have your players back, but I also think that D'Amico Ryans, this is from Tyler Dial. I remember this. D'Amico Ryans got up at his press conference and said, a little bit of blame needs to go to the quarterback as well. And I'm like, he's defenseless at that point. Like, listen, maybe there is a better way to use the quarterback slide. But at a certain point, I'm not saying you have to condemn your player, but you got to say, yeah, that was an unnecessary hit. We got to get that fixed because that's gonna hurt the team. This hurts the team multiple games.
Mm-hmm. See?
And to kind of excuse that behavior that is a pattern is not good for Azeez Al-Shaair to learn anything from this because he's likely. I wouldn't be surprised if he probably hits someone late in the Titans game when he comes back in the season finale.
Oh, I wouldn't be shocked at all. But, he could have made a point. We don't know what he did behind the scenes.
Right.
Trying to support his player publicly. But the way he answered that, I did not like it. He said, hey, we got to make sure we protect all players, including the person who actually gave the hit, was Azeez. And we can't do that. And so, unfortunately, but he can't be doing that.
Yeah. It's crazy. It was a crazy situation. It was crazy to see, and he should have got ejected. Glad he got suspended. I really think he should be suspended for the rest of the year. But, you got to really, teach someone a lesson. Let's go to Johnny real quick, Johnny. You're on with Blaine and Zach. Close us out here.
Just me?
Yes.
Just want to talk about the hit, and this is kind of an old school thing. A lot of these young guys, they're never going to be idols and be the Singletaries or Lamberts or anything else. But if they just learn to wrap their arms like the old tech school way of tackling was, we wouldn't have any of this at all. In fact, we'd have less running yards if defensive backs and everybody else would just wrap their arms. But for some generation here, we're having everybody that just wants to throw their shoulders and their heads into everybody.
Fully agree, Johnny. People got to learn how to tackle, got to learn that technique, and it's not being taught in college, not being taught in high school. 3HL is up next. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.